Hello. Hello. Can anyone around here speak basketball?
This is Adam Silver.
Vision 6-9. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks
Basketball podcast.
Okay, let's go to you first, Pavone. We're gonna get to what will they do, but yeah, let's just open it up. I mean, I don't even have to tell people how disappointing of a season it's been. But, the reasons, excuses, none of that really matters. We're here. We're at the trade deadline. We're 5 games under 500. What do you think the Raptors should do?
They're not going to win anything this year. They definitely need depth. That anytime I'm tuning into the Raptor game, they got the big boys playing heavy minutes and just a serious lack of depth. Then obviously, we need a big. We need a big because once we get to that next level, you're going to have to deal with Embiid and Giannis, and you're going to need, someone. Obviously, nobody can match those guys, but there needs to be some sort of interior presence. But I think it's depth first, interior presence second. But I think you're going to need to start, taking the pressure or taking the minutes off your main guy. So I think depth's the main thing. Cause I don't like talking shit about like professional athletes. These guys are incredible, but you look at Flynn and you're like, man, is this guy feels lost every game type thing. And I'm not bashing him. I am, I guess, bashing him, but I mean,
bash him a little. It's all right.
Just what do we have bench wise, and Banton might get some time. He should get some time. Like people maybe need to start getting some time based on maybe losing some players, right? I think maybe that could be something like addition by subtraction type thing, but definitely the depth is the main thing that they got to do. They got to build on that.
Yeah. I've been wrong about a bunch of things this Raptors season. I've referred to this regular season team as a juggernaut, even
a juggernaut, Fred.
A juggernaut.
Okay.
And I think the redundancy on the bench is a major thing. I feel like before I get to Matt, I'll say I also feel like chemistry in general is sort of. There's a lot of different things that have gone on, but gone poorly this season, and I'm not even talking about the like unlucky stuff. I mean, just like core problems, like evaluating this team, and I think obviously the Raptors are sort of being swarmed right now with depending how you look at it, it's an opportunistic good thing or it's like a sign of things that have gone poorly, right? Like would OG's name be in the trade market in the same way that it is now if the Raptors were weren't performing so poorly? I don't know. Maybe still, right? But I think at the end of the day, it's chemistry all around. And for me, that actually extends to the first unit as well. Like, I think, of course, this team needs depth and more versatility off the bench, but I also do feel like it's not as if the starters are blowing people out and then the bench is coming in and losing the lead. So I think kind of up and down the roster, I was saying this to a friend the other day. Like, I don't think the people in this on this team, I don't think they hate each other, but I do think that there is just like, there's a lack of chemistry. They're not clicking. And, we've talked about Nurse a ton on this podcast and sort of his shortcomings. But I think that aside, there still is a lack of chemistry and lack of, even individual performances don't seem to matter that much because there's not a lot of cohesiveness going on. So, I'll say I feel like there needs to be 1, 2, or 3, big shakeups. And I don't know exactly what that means, but Yeah. I mean, we'll get. I'm going to give Matt the floor here, but we'll kind of keep talking here for a sec. Matt, what do you think the Raptors should do?
Yeah, I mean, you referred to them as a juggernaut, but they kind of this season reminded me of Juggernaut from the X-Men cartoon, who always looked really strong, but you knocked his helmet off and then he was just toast. I
Yeah,
feel like,
that's not a bad comparison.
yeah, I don't know what the helmet is in this analogy for the Raptors team this year, but it's definitely something. Maybe it's just I mean, Zach Lowe described it as like, OG likes to kind of dribble and pound it, and like Siakam likes to go some guys and pound it, and Barnes likes to do that and pound it. Fred likes to dribble. Like Gary can be a catch and shoot guy, but also likes to play off the ball. There's just like a lot of guys that just need the ball to move around. If we had a bench, you could kind of like just rotate those guys a little bit, so that's not as much of an issue. But Nurse seems pretty intent to play all 5 of them at the same time for at least 36 minutes a game. What should they do at the deadline? I don't know. I feel like we've seen this Raptors team. I don't know. We had that championship, which was so glorious, and I can kind of live in that sun for at least a couple more years. I wouldn't mind if they just kind of like, set these players off to go do other things. Like I would love, I mean, I would love to see Siakam on another team and like in the playoffs and doing things. I'd be intrigued to see what Fred VanVleet would do in a different environment. OG, who knows, man? If OG went to Memphis, fuck, man, I'd be watching Memphis games like crazy to see how that would go. So, there's other things we can do as basketball fans for the rest of this year as we like kind of go through the nihilistic viewings of a team that might go into a tank. So I kind of, if the offers are there to move them, that's great. OG and Pascal, it might make sense to sit on them because all these teams have hope going into the playoffs. And in the offseason, hope is gone. People are living in their defeat. So that's when you might be able to get a huge haul for them. But when it comes to Gary and Fred, I would be pretty aggressive about moving them. And then for the rest of the year, run the team through Precious, run the team through Scotty, see what you got there, see what you got with Banton, see what you got with these other guys. And, I don't think we could have done the Kawhi trade if we didn't trade Bargnani back in the day. We had that Pirtle piece and we were able to flip it. And, 4 years from now, if Barnes is one of the best players in the league and we have all these picks from this deadline and we can go out and get someone who's available at that time. Ja Morant, who the hell knows, right? Who knows what's going to the league will bring us in 3 years. And hey, if we have Victor Wembanyama, we could start planning championships again. I love it when the city loves basketball. I love it when it's the hottest thing in town and not just a weird thing that me and my friends whisper about in a corner while ruining the conversation that's happening at the table, Anyhow, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, lots of good points there. And, I think what I sort of like, I don't know, I don't want to paraphrase you too much, but I feel like there is a sense of opportunity right now. And I know that I want their, I feel like Masai is nothing if not opportunistic, right? So I think that there's opportunity here, even with like an underperforming season. As far as like, building around Barnes or whatever, I don't think that, I've said before, but like, I really feel like, you're not sure what you have with Barnes and you still want to figure that out, of course, but like, should they build around him? I think yes, but like they should also build him up at the same time and not kind of overburden him. But also at the same time, there's a lot of players right now who I think have question marks. And I want to touch on your point with OG and the off season. I really think that as far as like, what should the Raptors do? If some of these New Orleans, Memphis rumors are true, those teams are absolutely loaded with assets. So
yeah, I love Dyson Daniels, man. I think that guy is pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think getting another non-shooter on the team would be hard, but also at the same time, if you can turn OG into several players, maybe there's a kind of like a Rudy Gay comparison there, or, just start to kind of spin that asset, right? Like, several players in a pick or several players in 2 picks or whatever it might be. Before we move on to what we will do, Alex, any comments on that? Like, sort of like,
I was gonna just touch on anything that I missed in the next segment because I feel like that's gonna be a long one. But
Sure.
yeah, no, I'm definitely with you guys. Barnes, just with Barnes, like he still has things. He's not like a surefire superstar yet.
No.
But when you watch that Memphis game the other night, he
Yeah.
wants to take over, and that's one thing that he possesses that you can't really teach. Like, just because you have that potential and you have that talent, you still need to want to take over games and be that number one guy. And he does have that. He definitely has that. But again, like you said, everybody needs to improve. Everyone has work to do. And yeah, he still has a lot of things to do offensively in every aspect of his game, of course. But the thing with Barnes is, like, that guy wants to be the number one. And that's one thing that not every team has. So I would be very, very reluctant to want to move him for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, Barnes is an alpha. And I think that, like, Freddie alluded to maybe chemistry issues a little bit earlier. And you have like two guys who are in a contract year. You have OG who wants a bigger slot. Pascal seems to be a pretty model citizen. But regardless, like, you have those three guys and you have this like young guy who's getting every single commercial opportunity and is like, not a wilting flower who's going to like bow to everything that everyone will say on the team. Like, it's in retrospect, maybe it was obvious that the Raptors might have some problems in that regard going into the year, but chemistry has just been not an issue for so long,
It's true. Yeah, no, and I think there's definitely a leadership void with Kyle, right? And, I'm sure Fred has some leadership. Pascal has some lead by example stuff. But, even actually, I think what's interesting with this season is most recently, I feel like we've seen Scotty and Fred play quite well together in the pick and roll and kind of like fill in the gaps. And it seems like whatever sort of invisible struggle was going on between them, that seems like it's faded a little bit. But also, to your point, I do think Barnes is a presence. I do, he is like I'm a number one guy. Like, his fourth quarters have been special, right? He's had a lot of special fourth quarters.
I think that's a good point because, like, that's a good problem. Like, that's good growing pains in an organization when your second year guy, rookie of the year, wants to take the bigger step, and then the other guys are like, well, what about me? Where's my piece? But that's a better problem than him going the other way and taking a back seat, in my opinion. Whether there's tension from his growth, maybe, who knows? But if that's the case, I'll take that. I will take a guy wanting to be the number one, maybe a little bit too early, rather than him shying away and not being that guy who wants to take that next step.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, brother! Is that Stone Cold? I haven't watched wrestling in years. Slap into a Slim Jim 316, brother!
Yeah.
No,
that's Macho Man.
You got three guys going in there. I think you had a little Hulk Hogan in there too.
Yeah, when you throw in the brother, I feel like you're many different wrestlers at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's move on to what will the Raptors do? I think there's a lot of different ways to slice this. I've been looking at Masai Ujiri's track record as a GM, and yeah, lots of different types of deals. Some in the season, not too much right at the deadline, but also some. I also feel like he's pretty comfortable re-signing guys, but that there's multiple examples of that failing. Obviously, like Kawhi, Gasol, Serge. There's multiple examples of that succeeding. Kyle, Pascal, DeMar. So, I think it really depends, Fred. I think it depends on his relationship with the player and their relationship with the franchise. Also, it's impossible to determine what the market is going to be, right? I remember with Norman Powell, part of the deal there was you wanted to, you didn't think you're going to be able to pay him $24 million. And he signed, I think it was like an $18 million contract. Same as Gary Trent, only longer. Right. So I think that's an example of at least a market projection miscalculation. So I think, that really comes into play with Fred. That really comes into play with Gary, of course. OG's a different story. OG's, I think, more of an opportunistic scenario. And for me, as far as what they will do, I do think that Pascal and Barnes and Precious is doesn't really deserve mention because it's his contract, but I think Pascal and Barnes are pretty much in the untouchable camp. Trading a guy like Pascal, you would need like such a monster haul, and I don't know who's going to give that up. And I also feel like that's just I don't really see the reasoning for it, particularly since you don't have to pay Barnes massive money until for another like 5-6 years. But yeah, will do. I mean, I'll save some of my takes, but let's go to you first, McCready. We know what we all sort of talked about, like what we should do. What do you think they're going to do?
Probably nothing. Just kind of like not nothing. I don't think they'll do.
They might. I know he's done that before.
Do nothing. It will be very kind of underwhelming. Yeah, if they do nothing, it will feel pretty underwhelming. I think league wide, it might feel underwhelming if they do nothing. I think. So you look at the moves that Masai makes at the deadline, and they're usually like relatively simple deals, right?
Yeah.
It's like Gary for Norm straight up, not too complicated. PJ Tucker for 2 seconds. It's like that. I'm sure he presented that for a week and a half, and then right at the deadline, Phoenix took that trade at the last moment.
Right.
So the Raptors have so many different things. Masai's deliberate, which is great. I don't know if it's not good for making a ton of deals at the deadline if you need to do that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but it doesn't seem conducive to that. I could be completely wrong here.
Right. No, that's fair. His big deals have been in the summer, right? Kawhi, Bargnani.
Totally. Like I'm imagining like different yacht trips, some like espressos, long conversations, back and forths, maybe he drops in on someone's wedding. I don't know. I don't see them doing too much. If they do, Siakam, I don't see it happening. If it does, I think it's probably going to be for Aiden with that new owner in Phoenix, like Aiden and some picks or something. I could see them like wildly going into that direction. I don't think it's likely. OG, I think they're only going to trade if they get a haul. Like again, they could trade him in the offseason. Gary, I honestly have no track on what they're going to do. He seems like the most likely guy to go, but maybe Fred's the most likely guy to go. I don't know. Probably one of those two are most likely to go. Boucher, if they get something for him, I could see him being on the move, but he makes his contract not ending after this year makes him, I think, a little bit harder to move, unless it's to a team that isn't projected to have cap space. So, and when it comes to like Malachi and guys like that, I can only see them being thrown in if they need the salaries or the roster spots or whatever.
Very, very fair. I think fans expecting fireworks, you generally haven't gotten that from Masai or Bobby at the deadline. Like that's just kind of not how they roll. They do make big moves, but I think a lot of the hugest moves we saw from them was early in Masai's tenure, right? With Rudy Gay, Bargnani, et cetera. And then after that, it was like mostly tinkering as they slowly got better and like built up a ton of assets. And I think, it's not crazy to say that they do not have a ton of assets. They have a lot of like starter level players that teams who want to go over the top want. What those teams are actually willing to give up, is a different story. But yeah, what do you think is going to go down for the Raptors at the deadline, Alex?
So much stuff's going through my head, so I'm just trying to make it as not as convoluted as possible.
Hey, man.
What they should honestly do is either Fred or OG should go. They have the most value. The league right now is it's a little crazy, and like if you add a Fred or an OG to a Phoenix, a Memphis, a Denver, a New Orleans, they could be elevated to a championship caliber. So like this is a weird year for the Raptors because I don't think I know Masai usually is patient. Him and Bobby, they're not too crazy emotionally when it comes at the trade deadline. They don't rush things, they don't force things. But this year seems different. Like outside of that bubble year, or I believe it was the year after the bubble when we got Barnes, right? It was
There was the bubble year, there was Tampa, and then we got Barnes.
okay, but that Tampa year didn't count, right? Because we were in Tampa, we were like, we couldn't expect much from these guys. There was COVID, we couldn't get into a flow. This year, we've seen the flow, and it's time now. It's time to move on and sort of break this team up, or the key guys who we did have during the run, a little bit after the run. I think we could get some value. There's value from these guys. OG and Fred specifically. I love Gary Trent. I think Gary Trent, he stays. He comes off the bench. He's a sniper. He's tough. He's young. You probably won't have to pay him as much. I think you keep a guy like Gary Trent because it's not going to take much if we keep Pascal and Barnes to get this team competitive again. And if you personally, Gary Trent and Precious, those guys are like glue guys and energy guys who I think you need that will complement a team moving forward. But Fred's getting older. Is he a legit starting point guard? He's getting injured a lot more now. He has value on a team like Phoenix, and we could get a lot of stuff back. And OG too. He's a great defender. He could hit shots. He's big. Like, does he even want to be here? These two guys, I think, have value, and I think we should move them. Truly, whether they're going to do it or not, I don't know. Those are my two guys that I think should go.
Yeah, I mean, so I think one thing I'm going to start here with what I think is actually going to happen. I think the Western Conference is forever we've talked about it in the league East versus
It's wide open.
And it's bad, right? Like the teams aren't very good, right? I think you look at New Orleans, you look at Dallas, just made a big move. The Clippers are like 4 games over 500. Phoenix is bad. LA's bad. You have the Grizzlies and you have the Nuggets, are fantastic teams. And then you have the Kings, who are just sort of like happy to be not bad.
And then we got Dallas, obviously, but we got
I think in Dallas, they've made their move. Maybe they'll make some minor moves, sort of thing. And
I was so hoping that the Raptors are going to make a play for Keegan Murray earlier in the season. He was struggling, but now he's doing too good. They're not going to move him.
No, he's good. That guy's good. Yeah.
Well, and it's I think that based on Memphis, New Orleans, Phoenix, I do think that there is a real chance for like a bidding war type scenario. So I kind of think one of Fred or OG will be moved. And I also think that anything's possible with the bench. I think they're going to try and flip and move around as much of the bench, as feasibly possible. But I think for Masai and Bobby, it won't be as explosive as, the rumors are, sort of like making it out to be. But I do think that they're going to look at this year and they're going to say, we've already lost out on the whatever, we're not going to be able to compete with the 4 worst teams in the league. But also, we don't care that much whether we're in the play-in. So this could be a similar year to when we got Barnes. And also on top of that, if we do make the play-in, we don't care if we have if we draft 9th or 10th or 11th, that's a pretty decent, pick. But I do think that they've seen enough chemistry wise. And to your Gary point, you're building a team around Scotty, right? I think he's at this point in his NBA career, pretty horrible 3-point shooter.
It's not good.
He's below 30% or 300%, whatever, however you think about that. So he's not a shooter. Doesn't mean he won't be, but you want shooters. You want him. He's got to be able to pass people the ball and for them to shoot. Precious is not yet a shooter. I think he's like 32% in his career. Pascal's like 34%, so also not really, Pascal's below average still. So I think you want shooters. And I think there's a good chance that, we move. My sort of call is I think that we're going to move OG for as many shooters as we possibly can. And I think we're also going to move the bench around.
Memphis has a lot of young shooters on their roster. They do shooters.
Yeah, totally. I think, Memphis.
So do the Pelicans.
So do the Pelicans, and I think
I don't see the Pelicans moving Trey Murphy 3. Like, I think if they get
Right.
OG, they want Trey Murphy there because they have Zion. Zion's the same thing as he's obviously a supersized Barnes in terms of what he brings to the table.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And
Yeah.
but my thing was sort of I really think there's something there with New Orleans and with Memphis is I feel like both of those teams, they're looking around and they're like, New Orleans to a lesser extent, but like, hey, we're pretty good with Zion. We want to keep this guy here as long as possible. You're already seeing it with Luka and Dallas. And then I think with Ja, you're right there. You are a contender. You want to win with Ja. Memphis is the smallest market in the league. So I think those three teams, they want to be aggressive with those young superstars. And
I think Phoenix is in the mix too, because
Phoenix too. Sorry. Yes.
Booker has been hurt too. So, having injuries like Zion and Booker, they're like, well, when we're getting these guys back, it would be nice to have some more pieces coming back. So they're not as obviously they're not as good as they are, but a lot of that is because of their injuries right now. So I think these guys are going to be aggressive, man. And
good call on Phoenix. I was totally leaving them out. Obviously, last year was a disappointment, but they made the finals 2 years ago. Booker is so young, right?
And we also just saw what happened in Minnesota when they got new owners, right? They did a crazy
they went for
thing. So it's very possible that they could just chuck a bunch of shots. Maybe we're talking about the bad blood that happens in Toronto this year, but look at Chris Paul. He never lasts more than 2 years with a team without pissing off every single other member of the team.
Yeah.
So maybe if the Raptors do move Siakam, maybe it's Paul that comes back in that deal. We reroute Paul somewhere else, Maybe Paul ends up going to the Clippers, right? Because if sure, in theory, Phoenix will need another ball handler, but I mean, you'll have Booker and you'll have Siakam. You'll have 48 minutes of main offense creation there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought it up before, Matt, but I think the Raptors as like a third party, that's definitely that reeks of Bobby and Masai to me. Like they love sort of participating in kind of like that, I don't know what's the word for it, but that third party team where there's sort of there's three teams and there's kind of more shuffling assets. But
I heard they were trying to do that with Kyrie with that deal. They were trying to get involved in a third party thing. So there's probably value in that third party thing. Obviously, if Masai's trying to get involved and he does it, he tries to do it a little bit. He's a sharp guy, so I'm sure there's value in that.
Yeah, crazy year. And also it's going to be I mean, this next 48 hours is going to be insane and fun. But I
think last thing with OG is we've just heard so much OG chatter over the last couple months. It's where there's smoke, there's fire. I think so. There's got to be something there to it. Whether he's unhappy for real or he's just not just frustrated with his role, and then add his value and how well he's played defensively this year and stuff. I think that's the guy that's probably going to go. And then Fred too. I could see them both going, honestly, truly.
Masai likes to do deals. Masai likes to do deals where after it's done, he just slaps the other general manager in the face. And I think he's waiting for a trade for OG where afterwards everyone's going to go that much. Oh, it's exciting. We got him. Oh, that's so he's waiting for that. He's waiting for that.
Yeah.
And that's what's giving me pause because I think he thinks he can still get it in the offseason if he can't get it now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It comes down to somebody else because if they get an offer that's disgusting for OG, 100% they're going to take it. Clearly it hasn't happened yet.
No, I agree with you, but I just think the West has never been this vulnerable now, top to bottom, that I think teams are going to be a little extra desperate this year and be willing to part with some things that they wouldn't be because of the openness of the West, which has been usually, it hasn't been like this.
Totally.
And two things I'll add too is that one, Matt, you were bringing up so kind of on the low post. I think with Pelton, they were talking about OG Scotty and Pascal occupying the same space, dribbling into the middle sort of thing. And I think that was a really huge point. And, when I've been thinking about like how those guys do that, Pascal, gets into the middle of the point, middle of the paint, can score, one of the best scorers in the league this year, and also can pass out of the double team. So he's pretty sort of like his kind of, a good citizen, right? He's very contained and amazing. Barnes can get in there. Once he's in there, he can score, at some points brilliantly, right? Like, his touch around the basket is insane. And also he's a brilliant passer. OG gets in there and it's kind of like he scores in a difficult, clumsy way, or nothing. Like the passing thing's not really a thing for OG. Like when he gets
balance thing is also a problem with OG too.
Yeah. And yeah. So I think Masai might be looking at that being like, okay, wait a second, maybe Barnes has sort of usurped OG here as far as like what I want to build around long term, and OG's more of a piece. But if people see him as a final piece, let's go for it. I had one other thing.
Let's trade Nick Nurse for a first.
Yeah, let's do it. Trade Nick Nurse for Rico Hines. Who says no?
Whoa.
Nick Nurse probably says no. Rico Hines is like, I'm up for the challenge, okay.
I'm into it. Let's get fucking crazy. Let's get Rafer Alston to coach the team.
Where's Jerry Stackhouse at? I was always so excited about that idea.
Me too.
Coach Stack.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that's the pod. Thank you both so much for joining. Thanks to everyone who's been listening, supporting. I was away for my honeymoon for 2 weeks, and then I got sick. So we will be more consistent from here on out. So apologies there. But I'll get Maddie D to come in, and we can plug some stuff. First, let me go to you, Pavone. What's up? Well, I'm sure you're performing all over the place. Please, plug your shit. What's going on?
I'm just Mr. Alex Pavone, Pavone on Instagram. And I'm doing shows. I'm going to Dallas. Hopefully I run into Kyrie, like I said, at LaGuardia. And we could ask him some questions. And that's it. I'm just doing shows, and that's it. Thanks for having me, buddy. And congratulations on not the sickness, on the honeymoon.
Oh, thanks, man. It was fun.
No worries,
man. Shout out to Puerto Rico. It was amazing. McCready, what's up?
Hey.
What's going? What do you want to plug? Hit us.
Congratulations on the sickness, Freddie. I know you like tearing down your body from the inside out, so keep it up, baby. So as usual, I'm working with my clown prov guys, which are half clown, half improvisers. We're taking over Dundas Square over the course of the May long weekend. We're all dressing up as hungry hippos, and we're grabbing people as they try to cross the crosswalk. Whoever eats the most humans, like not literally eating them, but using the power of mime, improv, and clown, eating them. Whoever does that over the course of the weekend gets a slot in the Toronto Fringe Festival. If you don't know what the Toronto Fringe Festival is, it's a fucking amazing festival. There's never been a bad show in it. There's cheap tickets, but top flight entertainment.
Amazing. What's funny is that McCready actually does have so many legitimate things to plug. But listen, check out the Hungry Hippo show, Dundas Square Fringe Festival, always a lock. Matt Duncan.
Yeah, May long weekend, guys. Get out there.
May long. Yeah. Like 3 months from now, sick. Okay, Matty D, what's up? Hit people with the good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Go to raptorsrepublic.com for all the articles that you can read, and all the other podcasts are on the Rapcast on your favorite podcatcher. If you watch this on YouTube, you can listen to the full episode on the Rapcast. So check that out. And hopefully you enjoyed the live show, and we'll see you when this fucking trade shit's done.
It's never done, Matty.
Sick of it. Oh Christ!
They gotta trade. They gotta change the trade deadline to this trade shit. I like that way better. I like that way better.
Are we still live? It's still in the corner there. Are we still on the air?
Yeah,
we're still on the air. This
Makes
is Matty
sense.
D losing it on air. I hope you stuck around. He's about to snap. Okay. We're done. Thank you so much, everybody. Matty D, if you feel like we're good to go, please just give me those words I love so much. Okay.
Okay. Listen to full episodes of the Confederacy of Dunks only on the Rapcast.